What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got something pretty darn big to talk about. It's not confirmed, but it does come from, honestly, the best leaker that we have. I wonder actually how upset WB is at him today, because not only does he spill the beans on Suicide Squad and the failures of the production of that game, but he also just throws in, a random short paragraph talking about Rocksteady, right? But it's also throwing in Hogwarts Legacy. So, yeah, I wonder if WB is very mad at our good old friend Jason Schreier today, because he confirms, I guess in his own way, quote unquote, he confirms that there's going to be a Hogwarts Legacy director's cut. Now, straight from his mouth, or I guess his typing fingers, many of the studio's employees are now helping to develop a new director's cut version of Hogwarts Legacy. At the same time, according to people familiar, the studio leads are looking to pitch a new single-player game, which would return Rocksteady to its roots. Now, for those double dippers of my channel that want to hear about that, I'm going to make a video, the next video on the channel. We'll talk about Suicide Squad, and we'll talk about the future of Rocksteady. So that video is coming up. In this one, just want to talk about Hogwarts Legacy. So, a director's cut. I find that exciting. I find that interesting. I tweeted, and I would stand by it. I don't know if I need it. Don't know if I need a director's cut for Hogwarts. For me, the main thing, and I said this when it came to, I think maybe specifically Ghost of Tsushima, I just don't want things slowing the development of future things down. Now, not that I'm not thankful and won't play, what they give me, but I just assume, and I think it's actually very fair to assume or to think, when you have people working on like a massive DLC type thing, which is kind of what a director's cut is, when you have people doing that, they're clearly, obviously, not working on the next thing. So I would just like to throw in, have excitement. I'm excited for it to a degree, but I am, it's like, well, does that slow down Hogwarts Legacy 2? I can't imagine that it doesn't. I guess you could look at it and say, well, look, if everybody's helping, if all 12 WB, and I think that's actually what Schreier says in the article, is they're really approaching it, or the mandate or the strategy is very much like a collaborative kind of thing. They're all helping each other with loads of different things. Okay, then if you have everybody kind of helping on it, you can have most of Avalanche be doing Hogwarts Legacy 2, and some of them be doing this director's cut. If that's the case, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. If you have like the whole team working on this, then I actually would say it's less than fine for me personally. Okay, so what does a director's cut mean? What does it do? What are some things we could see in it? Well, I've seen people speculating. Let me approach it from my own angle. So Ghost of Tsushima is the one that I think of in terms of probably what gave us like the best. I also think to Death Stranding, not as the polar opposite, but just as like a different way of doing it. So one thing I want to throw in is the release of these things, right? While you have Elden Ring and, its DLC coming out in just a few weeks, that DLC is massive. That DLC is basically another game, right? And it took 2 years, more than 2 years to make that DLC. So that's one way of doing it. And, the DLC is not a director's cut. It's literally DLC, in Elden Ring's case. You go to Ghost of Tsushima, right? Icky Island, which is, I believe, a great DLC. And I just call it, I guess, DLC. Or expansion, whatever you want to call it. Okay, well, that adds quite a bit. It updates some things. It changes some things in the base thing. But it mainly adds literally just a new, storyline, new missions, and quite a few other things, actually. So that, to me, is like how you do it about as good as you can, right? Giving a ton of meat to it. It comes, and also I would say, when it released, if you recall, Ghost of Tsushima Icky Island only came out a year and 2 months after the game came out. Now, what I find fascinating, and maybe like this is why I don't really know why they're doing it or exactly what could be in it, because we're already past that point for Hogwarts, right? Hogwarts came out last February, so it would be this April if you're trying to match Ghost of Tsushima. So either they're slower, or it's more, or Sucker Punch was really fast and they're kind of wizards. I mean, I would kind of side with that side, right? But you know what I mean? I just want to throw it out there where that one I really feel would be like the crown jewel of it gives you so much content. It's really what a lot of Hogwarts Legacy fans wanted, right? Like you update the base game, you do a couple, quality of life things that people wanted in this summer update, right? You would do that. And then you would also add an entirely new section that would maybe take 4, 5, 6, 7 hours to do, right? I mean, that is what Hogwarts Legacy fans, at least the ones that I have seen that want this stuff, that is what they want. That is what Icky Island is. Now, you go to Death Stranding. Death Stranding's kind of interesting, right? Because they added missions, but I would say that one, and they added actually a couple more things, building structures. I think they added like the racetrack. So they definitely added things. And I guess if you were to move that over to Hogwarts, you would say, okay, maybe a couple other mini games, maybe a wizard's chest would be included, right? Then you have a couple missions, not too many. You're not reinventing the wheel. You're not doing Icky Island. You're adding some missions, but you're also doing wizard's chest. You're also, again, these quality of life things that people want. You're adding all of those to it. That is what mainly, again, there's some things I'm leaving out, but that's mainly what Death Stranding did. So those are the examples I kind of wanted to bounce around. Even Elden Ring, not as a director's cut, but as, okay, well, this is a full-fledged DLC. This is one of the bigger DLCs I think we've ever seen in gaming. And it's also very expensive, right? And $40, but it took them 2 years to craft it, and it really does seem like its own game. I mean, that's kind of in its own territory, I guess, but you could throw it in kind of in the pool of like what you would want. So for me, I mean, I'm shooting anywhere between Death Stranding and Ghost of Tsushima. I don't think it would be Ghost of Tsushima levels, but at the same time, you know, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we're past, like we're almost a year and a half in. We're almost a year and a half into this thing. So whenever they do it, well, two things. Number one, it's got to be somewhat soon. You don't do a director's cut 4 years after the game comes out. That would make me much more worried. In fact, the longer it goes, it would make me worried for Hogwarts Legacy 2. Not in terms of the quality, in terms of how much longer we have to wait for it, right? If it takes 2.5 years to do a director's cut for Hogwarts Legacy, oh my God, well, do you start Hogwarts Legacy 2 after that? Are you doing it simultaneously? Again, I think that's the case, but we don't know that for sure. So those are things that I'm trying to just like keep in my mind, right? I would prefer this thing to come out within the next like 5-6, like within 2024. I would like this director's cut to come out. And I also would say, if you're doing a director's cut, which, you know, look, it's Schreier. I have no reason to doubt him. He's spot on, right? So like they're doing a director's cut. I don't know why the summer update even exists. To be honest with you, I don't know why. This photo mode, and I mean, maybe they just wanted to throw a couple things in. Maybe it's why the summer update is so much of like not a lot, literally at all, which, you know, as we've talked about in previous videos, I'm fine with it, but I know, you know, not everybody's been fine with it. Maybe that's why they wanted to give you photo mode, give you a couple other goodies, you know, coincide it to when the Hogsmeade quest, you know, like exclusivity thing ends. You don't need to do that in a director's cut, but the director's cut's still coming within the next, like, 6 months. I really hope that, because if we approach 2 years, if we go past that to, like, 2.5 or even 3 years, I don't know. Like, for me, doing a director's cut, or, like, which is basically a glorified DLC or a different way of DLC, whatever, again, however you want to describe it. But imagine telling somebody, oh, you're going to get DLC or whatever for this single-player game. You're going to get it, like, 2.5 years into development. It's like, well, you know, in the live service age that we live in, maybe some people would be fine with that. And I mean, I guess I'd be fine with it to the extent of, oh, they're giving us more content, and it just took them so long to do it. Okay, but then at the same time, well, what about the next game? Like, do we have to start the clock now? Because now 2.5 years in, do you have to wait another 5 or 4 to get Hogwarts Legacy 2? So now are we talking, you know, maybe 2028, 2029 before we get Hogwarts Legacy 2 instead of like a year or two earlier? That's where my brain is at. And again, until they kind of clarify, and maybe they will. Maybe when they announce it, they'll say, like, hey, we're also working on another thing. Like something like that. You don't have to say Hogwarts Legacy 2, but just to make it known that you're not just doing this, you're doing more than one thing. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.